You want to kick us off?
Sure. Hi, guys. This is a one-way talking, so just listen to me. We're doing a webinar for the first time. We're testing it out. Obviously, if it's too weird or just not vibing, let us know, and we will go ahead and look at other options. But we had to kind of turn to a webinar to just have more attendees. So this is a first go, so bear with us. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and one moment. Cool. So welcome to the community huddle for today, January 14th. On today's huddle, we're going to be discussing our release review, the Datum desktop, and we will be having a Q&A. So to kick that off, it's going to be our boy Drew. Take it from here.
Hey, everybody. I haven't seen these slides yet, so can you go to the next one? This is awesome. Yes. Oh, hey, look at that. So yes, we've wrapped up a lot of good work to get basically a set of functionality we feel like is useful enough to get users on the platform. That was our goal for 1.0, which we closed the books on in December, and we have just a couple of things left to finish up. So not quite closed. But I can tell you what as we let some folks in over the next couple of weeks, what you can find. And we core to that is sort of what we would call our commodity ubiquitous features that are actually hard and take time to develop, but we feel really good about it. And that's primarily around what it takes to actually get something live on the internet, which as this crowd knows well, it's having a domain name owned and DNS configured, and so it can proxy and serve traffic. And so core to that is DNS first of all. That is the heart of the internet, of course. And I moved my website, which is the website's not interesting, but I had that hosted on Cloudflare, and was able to move it to our infrastructure completely using our DNS, and it's really exciting to be able to have all of that running through Datum. We also so that is live. We've got 4 anycasted addresses that basically serve traffic from our 17 pops, and it's working. We thought we had an incident the other day that actually turned out to be it was not a system issue at all. It allowed us to dive deep into, is our DNS service working properly? And first of all, yes, it is, and second of all, we obviously need some better telemetry here to determine that more quickly. Go back to the other slide real quick, and I will try to speed this up. Oh, whoops. And then, close complement to that is just domain management, and actually, being able to manage your DNS records. All that stuff is working great. We hit some interesting challenges around, like, hey, we need to pull whois information for this domain, but the services to do that with, we don't want to hammer them with requests. So how do we throttle that and queue up stuff and be nice, internet citizens? So, working through that, or we worked through that. Our other Zach Smith, our San Francisco Zach Smith, did a ton of work there, and it's awesome. We have made lots of improvements to datum control to make that, a good companion. And then on sort of the control plane business side, if you're not familiar with Milo, that's the name that we've given to our business operating system, which is essentially like, hey, there's a lot of stuff that you need to do to manage users and get money from them, and manage contacts and things like that. And so we overhauled our kind of MVP Loki based telemetry and observability using what ended up being a new API. So we actually have a full Kubernetes API for managing activity logs, which is great. It's based on ClickHouse, and it's much more efficient. And Scott Wells did a great job with all of that. Scott Schuhart Wells, I should say his name properly.
Yeah,
Um, and then lots of other great features. Go to the next slide.
I think
I thought there was
like
another.
Shark, yeah, Scott had probably Scott could cover some of this, I
Oh,
guess.
sorry, that was. Oh, you
Yeah,
didn't get back to
yeah,
the other slide.
yeah,
That's why I was
yeah.
confused.
This is
Apologies.
Scott. Yeah, this is Scott.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. I will let Scott talk to these things if he's up.
Yeah, I think you covered most of it. Don't really have too much to add. Just making some good usability improvements. Getting real time updates in the cloud portal. It's fun seeing everything react in real time as you actually like create resources and do things. And uh, I think one of the big tripping points that we've always dealt with the CLI is just the weird interaction you've got between datum control and kube control. You'd have to hop over to kube control just to interact with projects, and it's just an annoying friction point. So we finally solved that and made it to where you can actually use datum control to just do get, create, apply, and all the other standard Kubernetes resources or commands that you're used to right against datum. Makes it much nicer to work with. Um,
Yeah, that's very cool.
yeah, and then Drew covered activity logs, so I won't go into that too much. But fun
You
project.
can add some words to it. I'm sure you know a lot more about it.
Yeah, it's a fun project, and it's all built on ClickHouse. It's pretty performant. I think we can still get more out of it. But the nice part is there's full deployment automation, integrates directly with any Kubernetes cluster. So it's not just built for Milo. It really is able to collect audit logs from any Kubernetes environment and do it in a multi-tenant friendly way. And we got performance tests in there. So good foundation. Going to keep chipping away at it.
Yeah, I think one thing that has shown itself through that process is really like where our bet on Kubernetes has, where we're starting to see the benefits of that, because it has slowed down progress in some areas where we're like, man, there's a way easier way to do this, and we're kind of having to use Kubernetes as a building material where there's other stuff that works out of the box. And the nice thing is like we've kind of now built up enough components where it's starting to accelerate, and we're starting to see, oh, like now that we've built something in the Kubernetes way, like we're starting to get the economies of scale and all of the the kind of existing infrastructure and software out there that is built for Kubernetes. And so it's exciting to be like, oh, now we added to that, and there's now this modular, reusable abstract component that can be useful to the community. And the other thing about Kubernetes is like it's a massive distributed system with a whole lot of components that have contracts that are well known, so you don't have to use all of it all the time, right? You can pick and choose what you use. And so the more that we are kind of teasing that out and really like what modern Kubernetes looks like, because Kubernetes today is very different in some ways from 5, 7, 10 years ago. So it's really exciting to really feel some velocity increase.
All right.
Cool.
Move on to the next one. Uh, we have an exciting Datum desktop preview by Zach. Zach SF.
Zach GPT.
I'm in. Can you guys see me and hear me?
Yes.
And
We can.
I see everyone finally. That was so interesting. Um, cool. Yeah, feel free to go to the next slide. Cool. So yeah, here's just a high level of what Datum Desktop is and why it matters. For those folks who've used something like ngrok, whether you're testing, you know, public webhooks to a local service, it's a very obvious use case and problem that a lot of people have, especially when you want to potentially share what you have locally to a peer of yours, no pun intended, or just anyone out there, really. How do we expose this local port to the world? And there's lots of different technologies out there that can help you do that. We decided to build on top of IRO, and IRO built on top of Quick. There's a lot of benefits in that, and I'm not going to go into the details there, but at a high level, we avoid a bunch of kind of overhead that comes with classic like VPN tunnels that you might have used for work or other things like that. And we can set up direct peer-to-peer connections in most cases, and then if not, leverage something like a relay to help facilitate connections between two different peers. In this case, it could be Datum and my local machine, or you and my local machine as well. Um, yeah, where we're headed next. So the demo I'm about to show you is the desktop version. Of course, like how can I click through a couple of buttons and set this up on my machine? There will also be a headless version of this, so you can do a lot more developer-driven things with it. But for now, we will be demoing the desktop version. Um, cool. Next screen, please. Yeah, so here's just some more detail about how this works. Yeah, at a high level, TLS 1.3 gives you encryption in streams compared to kind of a TCP tunnel. Um, and yeah, so let me just go ahead and actually just share my screen here. You might see background. Okay, so if you see this screen here, you'll see that there's no proxy found. Um, And the reason for that is because I actually have disabled the first proxy I created. But let me show you kind of an end-to-end. Here's how you actually get started with this desktop app. The styling here is still in flight. We do have designs out there, and this is getting closer and closer every single day. Um, there's also some work that we're still working on, kind of on our Datum infrastructure to support this at scale. But here is kind of how it will work. The first thing is just adding a tunnel. So you can kind of pick the local address and port that you want to expose to the world. You give it a name, and then now you have a tunnel created. You can, of course, do things like disabling and enabling that to temporarily block access to that tunnel. You can do things like viewing bandwidth, etc. Pretty basic functionality here, really just more or less management of local tunnels on your desktop machine. So I have this first tunnel disabled, and that's why when we come to quick line peak localhost 8099, which is actually the mocked gateway up for this tunnel, that nothing is resolving. As soon as I enable this, that tunnel and that ticket get created, the quick tunnel gets established, and then basically end to end we can talk to each other over IRO. So you'll see here that, yeah, we're able to, of course, reach the Python app that I have exposed, which is showing you that this is available. I can even generate some traffic here. We'll see if that does anything. Come over to the bandwidth details section, and you can start to see and understand, what this tunnel is doing and how much traffic is flowing back and forth, etc. So anyways, wanted to give you guys a quick overview of what's coming. I think we're hoping that this can be in users' hands here in a couple of weeks. But yeah, if you have any kind of feature requests, recommendations, config, things you'd like to see, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. That's awesome. So yeah, it's really a cool tool for, sharing your work and you collaborating with teams, right, between developers. And obviously with the headless version coming soon, you'd be able to expose your services, apps, and any other software, agents, for example, back out, right, through these tunnels. So that's excellent. All right. Any questions? See
Yeah,
some raise hand.
Tom asked a great question.
Yeah.
Zach, what would they need if they wanted to sort of connect to that tunnel from where they're sitting and like participate in that?
Yeah. Well, so yeah, the URL that you saw there was because I'm running the IRO gateway locally. So of course, the URL that I'm exposing is to myself, which is why you saw me hitting that endpoint and not potentially a public URL. With the Datum desktop, you will get a public Datum branded URL. I think we might even let you add your own domains to that as well in the future, but um,
That's right.
that's where you'd get, your own Datum URL. You'd give that to someone else, and then they'll be able to establish a tunnel directly there.
Yeah, and it's it's doing two things. One is a giving us like really useful functionality that I think all of us probably have a toolkit of things that we use every day to do the same thing. So kind of consolidating that and building on that is a great part of it. But the other thing is putting real traffic through the Datum network and being able to terminate other things than IRO traffic or IRO endpoints. Again, like everything, this is kind of a real thing, but it's also a stepping stone to much more exciting uses for the network, using like the latest and greatest technologies that are because we don't have the legacy to have to adapt things to. So yeah, exciting stuff to come.
Cool. Well, we have today Sehyo, who's been a part of our community for a while and has been um, working on building something new. Uh, Sylvia, if you could go just to the next slide, please, just to introduce Sehyo. And he has been in the thick of the internet with Zockets, and which is Nginx, and then being a CTO at Infineon. So Seo, I'll let you, introduce yourself, and we can get into the thick of things after that.
Hi, everyone. Really great to join this community huddle. Um, I've been at kind of sort of an infrastructure and networking for a long time in various startups and enterprises. Um, I saw some of the sessions before, like DNS, which is sort of a very kind of interesting because I spent some years at the Infoblox, so kind of very familiar with the DNS and especially at Nginx. There's a lot of those kind of dealing with issues. And I've been evolving with also the security and other layers and the networking. Um, the company, the last company, the Infineon, we are building a streaming network, streaming to replace a Kafka. So kind of really well familiar with a lot of networking challenges and all the layers and how do you actually deal with all this across the multi-cloud. So really, really looking forward to participate in this panel. And yep.
All right. Yeah. So, yeah, tell us more about like what you've been investigating, looking at. I know AI gateways and models and are all within your, activities for a while. So tell us more about, your research, perhaps, as we can talk.
Yeah, so I've been kind of as as aware that the agent and AI is not just really a forefront of everyone's sort of in mind these days. So I've been kind of trying to build really a sort of a custom small language model for various applications. So both local, running locally, and also trying using a various different agent technology like cloud and the coding model to really what I call a structured vibe coding to let basically trying to build all the application using a prompt and a lot of kind of interesting challenges and really appreciate that both really the current progress being made and also the challenges. um, because so for example, like the Y, the small, what's called small language model, which is as opposed to the large language model, which is provided by like OpenAI and Anthropic, right? The small language
Mm-hmm.
model is, I think, gaining a lot of attention lately because it's a way to really optimize your agentic application. So instead of trying to rely on very large, the open public um, models, you can build your own customized model to for your own purpose, right? And and these large language models are very expensive. Can be unless you're very paying attention to it, and you don't know what the performance are. And there's also security and networking concerns, and a lot of these models also you have no idea how they trained. And so the small language model is the way to really um, control the experiences, and basically you can actually uh, fine tune or pre-train or post-train so that it can really fit into your into your application. And some of these models, like some of these the on a lot of research, a lot of experience done, can be run as like 1/10 or 1/20 of the size of a large language model and performs like 5 to 10x. So, so unless you really need to have this kind of capability, what the large language model does, a lot of makes sense to really put that into here on your infrastructure or on your cloud, and you can really constrain it, and you can actually um, really lessen a lot of hallucination and the security concerns.
Yeah. So, is there a room for like a hybrid model where using overusing the term model, but like to fit into like a scheme where you have a SLM for some um, specific vertical, and then you actually query the larger the public LLM models. Uh,
Yes, I mean, I think that's kind of a lot of enterprises, a lot I see, and the way I think is going to have a choices, right? So,
mhm.
so you can have your own model, and they can offload depends on your AI workload into a different category, right? So some like a prompt maybe can very answer, and you can maybe cache it locally, and served by a small language model. But some of these like a very complex prompt that that cannot be done
Mm-hmm.
by small language model, you can upload to public model. So,
Right.
but that requires having to really kind of understand, the types of prompts to ability to monitor. So there's a lot of, yeah. So I think that's a very good use case. It can be very challenging to set up, but I think that's where I think a lot of, if you want to have a very more control of the cost, I think that's the way to go.
So, and then you would have to, as I heard you, it's like you have to customize the prompts to each one of these different LLMs. Is that something that's required for you to get the
Well,
right?
so yeah, in some case, a lot of cases, I
Mm-hmm.
think you can. So if you have exactly know what the user's intentions, and you can package it, you can actually build a prompt,
Right.
and then you can say this prompt based on this what the user wanted to, can actually say this is assigned to a small language model. Some of these can be a very complex prompt that can be assigned to a large language model. So you can mix and match. In
Right.
other cases, the prompt can become from the users themselves. In this case, you may need to classify. You need to classify according to the intent. And so you may have another language, another model to classify the intent, and then you may actually then forward that prompt to different models or different providers.
Got it. And yeah, this is where kind of the AI gateway comes into the picture, right? Like to route, and I think you talk about it in the next few slides, right? I think so. We can get to that, but basically here you are talking about the popularity of different models, and is that uh,
Yeah. So unfortunately, I think so. It's kind of interesting. So all the closed models are really dominated by sort of American and some European firms like OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, while a lot of most of the popular open source models are dominated by the Chinese, right?
Mm.
So used to be on the even kind of interesting, even at the beginning of the year, the Meta, the Llama was very popular. So that was what everybody was kind of using it. But now
Mm-hmm.
these days, the Queen, which is a Chinese model,
Yeah.
is becoming the most downloaded. So this is the latest published stat and min max. And a lot of these models are, especially DeepSeek, is actually beginning to challenge a lot of the closest model in terms of capability. And because they're open source, easier to train, that's why I think it's becoming popular. So actually, when I run this locally in my machine, I actually use a Quinn model because it's kind of pretty reasonable and can be run in like 20 gigs of GPU memory. Um, and then pick and choose other models depends on the use case.
So you're actually running QN on your
Yes,
machine. I
right.
see. I see. And is this also OpenAI compatible, like API wise?
Yeah, so that's why
Mm-hmm.
a lot of so that's why basically there's a model, of course, itself, and then there's which API or the what basically all the application AI applications basically use the REST the REST API to talk to the model server, and
Mm-hmm.
there's pretty much standardized on OpenAI and then
Mm-hmm.
Anthropic API as a sort of alternative. So most of the API, the AI gateway is
Mm.
actually they provide OpenAI the
Right.
endpoint compatible.
Correct. Right. Yeah. So you talk about Nrock here
Right. So
as
this is
AI.
yeah, this is a slide I kind of stole from them. So basically, this is what I call the evolution of AI gateway. So on the top, the beginning when the earlier when they're when everybody's building AI the agent based application, basically they just call element provider, which is most of was the OpenAI because that
Mm-hmm.
was the most parent because of
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT that was popular, right? Uh, so they call that directly, and then Entropy came out, and then other provider came out. So they kind of like hand built a way to switch this other provider,
Right.
and then so they're going to then add manually switch using environment variable or some other trick to it. And then, so they're beginning to realize, okay, instead of having to do that way, let's, build up, build another abstraction on top called AI gateway that lets you start switching this model much more better.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, like observability, right? You want to find out what happened to the AI application in terms of token count, performance, latency, and then start adding up a lot of stuff. Last year, AI Gateway was the sort of optional, but I
Mm.
think this year, I don't see any application that can be deployed with an AI Gateway. It's becoming sort of a mandatory features of
Mm.
all, right? So yeah, any
Uh,
enterprise application that if you want to deploy, you cannot do without AI Gateway.
a- And are there any customizations that people are doing within those AI gateways to be, to route the agent to those models, using heuristics or any kind of other techniques?
Yeah, so those are becoming a very interesting, a lot of capability, right? So it started with a very simple, right? Simple configuration, right? So maybe if based on the environment variable, you switch out, and then was based on maybe some kind of prompt classification, maybe or some, right? So then becoming very sophisticated pretty soon. So a lot of AI gateways has this now a configuration language.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them based on even a plugin model.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them based on Python. Some of them based on even a lot of AI gateway I see now beginning to support the Western-based plugin
Right.
to to provide this extension some of them providing graphical user face so that you can actually build out the logic. So like the Cloudflare is doing. So they're beginning to get very sophisticated, and it becomes now a very full feature. So you can
Yeah,
actually, a lot of logic you can express it, and like based on cost metrics, based on um, token count. So if the token count exceeds certain things, go to different, model or even a different region, right? So that's one way to do it, right? Or based on the user's region, go to, US, US region, or go to a European region based on where the user is located.
right, right. Yeah, this has implications for Datum as well, right? So, yeah, this is a great comparison slide. I think that something that you were talking about here, right?
Right.
About between the API gateways and AI gateways.
Yeah, sort
Um,
of kind of AOI gateways is sort of kind of, I think now complementary and sort of I think a way, API gateway was the, so, basically, fundamental
right,
building block of all the cloud. Now, AOI gateways is basically now fundamental building blocks for all the agentic, any agentic, application. And I think ultimately AI gateways can be probably, I would say, 10 or 100 times in terms of a value or amount of eventual, the revenue is going to be generated from that compared to API gateway. Um,
got it.
because API gateway was primarily used for on the cloud side, on the infrastructure. So it was, not many application needed. But AOI gateways is now pretty much anywhere, right? Whether locally or so. I think ultimately, and then amount of spending infrastructure on AI application is such a large that it becomes, I think, a much bigger marketplace.
Yep. Right. Yeah. So AI gateway, these are the building blocks, right? Of
Yeah.
all.
So yes, I think this is like sort of a kind of dimensions, right? So AI
Hmm.
gateway. So whether it's API driven, so some of the AI gateways are like embedded into the application itself as a language, and then of course, you have a Python specific, you have a Java specific. Some of them based on now, then they have split it into proxies based on
Hmm.
API infrastructure. And then there's a different configuration. Some of it can be run on cloud or on premise. Some can
Hmm.
only on the cloud, right? Things
Right.
like a Cloudflare, which is very specific to it, and so a lot of dimensions to it. Um,
Right. Right. And then you discuss one of these
right. So
examples, right? The very
right,
popular open
this
router.
is probably the open route is one of the most popular, and they have started as a very simple gateway that deploy on Docker container. Now they're running on the cloud, and they serve a lot of traffic these days, right? So like 5 million users, uh, 60 models providers, and I mean, yeah, 60 providers and 300, right? So, and basically it's becoming a Swiss knife for that, and can do high availability, can track all the latency and all the custom policies. So this is what this was like when I looked at their page like 6 months ago to now, it's just significant.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. Cool. And this is another one called 100 plus LLMs in OpenAI format.
Yeah. So actually, the light element was now another one which is very popular among a lot of Python community. In fact, when I use like some of these like Python packages for like popular package and Microsoft, so the agent library it comes with it.
Mm.
So there was no choice, right? So a lot of this now the AI gateways you have no choice, right? If you pick a popular framework or if you pick a popular like a lane chain, you are forced to use their own, right? And very hard
Yeah.
to decouple from and then switch to something else. It becomes, big exercise. So a lot of, I think, when you're building AI applications these days, you have to know exactly what AI gateway, all this, other thing comes with that, and you have to figure out whether do you wanna, roll your own, do you wanna, replace that. So there's a lot of now the complexity comes with it.
Correct. Cool. Yeah, and then we're cells in it.
Right.
Yeah.
So every right now cloud or every now the major right comes with their own AI gate, right? So Vercel, of course, is one of the biggest for
Right.
all the if you want to build a uh, Node.js or the Next.js application, right? So they have a full feature AI gateway. I think is fairly complete, right? I think in fact I think they're competing now against Open Router,
Uh-huh.
and you can see this is their they have completely built their own observability, can
Platform on
do all
top.
the kind of metrics platform, right? They have it all.
Yeah. Cool. Uh,
And of course the
Cloudflare is
Cloudflare.
in.
Yeah, they
Right.
have, right. They have, in fact, the Cloudflare has pretty much one of the most complete feature set in terms of extensibility, and they now serve a lot of traffic. So, AI gateways, I think, becoming now they're one of the biggest now growing up business. You can see that they have features, analytics and control costs and all that stuff. Um, and the next slide, things like they have like this drag and drop, so you can actually control the
The
policy, right?
flow.
You want how
Okay.
you want to route, things like that.
I see. So you can control how you're routing, and that's a drag and drop, like a workflow almost.
That's right.
Cool.
And
Excellent.
and other thing is the AI gateways is also in terms of kind of security, right? So
Mm-hmm.
blocking prompt, right? So this the prompt injection, and then the AI having governance, all this based on the prompts becoming very critical issue. So you need to
Yeah.
block this one. So that's why I have, right. And this is the in terms of Kubernetes space. So
Yeah.
this is from the Solo IO. So this
Yeah.
runs
Solo is just right. Correct.
yeah, yeah. Solo has this is I think this now I think part of um, the bigger both open source and the cloud run. I'm sure there's
Mm-hmm.
other one, and then this is another one in terms of
SRA. Big pro.
Bifrost, right? So, which is another. I didn't realize they exist until like a couple months ago, and this is like alternate to Allied LM, right? So you begin to have another more AI gateway that comes out to, let's say, to provide a complementary and to replace it. And, basically they use, yeah, this is a retaining goals. I like the elements retaining in Python. So,
Got it.
better.
Great. Yeah. And these are some of the features I would
Yeah,
use.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you can see it, right? Some of them has have the observability. Some has like the integrated primitives, right? Tracking, labels, headers, and monitoring. One particular I think that is coming to growing the feature phase of semantic caching.
Yeah.
Uh, Basically, just like on HTTP caching, you're caching
Mm-hmm.
basically content. Now you're caching basically the LMM, the weight. So you can cache based on the content and based on the vectors. So you can actually cache those response based on. So you compute the embeddings, and based on the embeddings, whether they have already been cached already, and can return it.
Cool. Oh, that's a lot of stuff.
Yes, and I'm sure there's like 20 other vendors, and there's
Yeah,
and
but
didn't
this
even
is a
talk
good
about.
survey. Yeah.
Yeah, so this
So
just beginning, briefly, but there's a lot of. I'm sure the public cloud providers is going to come out with their own AI gateway or extend to the basically their API gateway.
cool. So, folks, any questions, comments on that AI gateway and small language models and routing, the new kind of routing? The networking guys thought of routing as something else, and this is a new kind of routing. Uh, yeah. So, thanks, Sale, for doing this for us and going through, and I'm sure the community appreciates this.
Sure.
Uh,
Hey, Zach, did you have a question?
I was thinking about
Come
yeah, I
on,
mean, I was
ask
saying
it.
well, so yeah, I'm curious, just like based on what you're seeing, do you think like contextual and agentic routing will be like a first class, product within, these AI gateways? Because today it's, primarily user driven. There's lots of context involved of deciding, which model that, the agent needs to switch to depending on the prompt or context at hand. I'm just curious, do you think there's going to be like a standard that ends up getting kind of approved and aggregated on, or is it mostly going to be like a user driven, like ad hoc type
I
of
think, yeah, I think that's actually that's the thought I had was like a lot of use cases are now beginning to coalesce, right? So beginning to in terms of context engineering, and then there's a memory, and now there's a notion of a context graph. So I think the problem is that it's still very immature, right? So a lot of these things are moving so fast, right? So the 6 months ago, with the agent framework's not different from even a couple of months ago, right? So I think there's a lot of different users coming along. So I don't see things to be stabilized until we have dignity more mature and much more product use case. So until then, it's going to be Wild West. This is like a proxy lending. This is like the API gateway was like 10, 20 years ago. So there's a lot of experimentation going on until, and then people are, I'm sure this will be driven by the customer enterprises, say, like tired of, asking question, right? What AI get, which was, can we standardize on it? So I'm sure there'll be pushback from there, but I think it's going to take time.
Yeah, makes sense. And I apologize in advance for anyone that gets my cached response back from the AI semantic hacking.
All right. I think I'm going to call, a quick question, and especially preparing for some of the things that are coming on our hurdles in the future. Evan, to talk about some of the building blocks of our edges. And I know that Domenico and Damien were interested in that topic. So would love to hear from Evan on
Yeah,
that.
Manish, we got to work on the order because there's no way I can follow Sehyo. That brain dump is far more interesting than anything about to come out of my mouth. But we'll try to make it interesting and quick. Look, earlier we were chatting about how Kubernetes is has been a bet that's paid off
Hmm.
really well for us, and that's true for me as well as us because um, have been able to deploy our global edge with the help of our provider NetActuate, who's an ISP hosting compute platform that feed them an ISO and they boot it on data center for us. But they can turn up BGP sessions with their API. So we have implemented our edge, which and everything you heard presented earlier that from Datum is a Kubernetes custom resource definition or custom network interface. Everything we ship is runs just atop raw Kubernetes, and we the you could run a global cluster, single cluster with node pools in various regions, and it works pretty well. But despite the little latency between regions, Kubernetes actually can manage nodes across the whole world really well. It's such a solid kit. But we found that then we were running Kubernetes ourselves, and it's quite complex. It's part of why it's so good. The complexity is baked in. But also, we ended up treating every part of our system as a different part. Talos Linux is a distribution that just boots a node into Kubernetes and joins a control plane. And we tried, what happens if we just yeet some Talos ISOs into the ether, have them join a control plane, tell them where they are, and then, well, it works really well. So we have a many worlds, simple, templated uh, Kubernetes cluster definition that built on Sidero's Omni. And I use the word control plane because that's what it is. But using that word a lot, and we using being totally discrete systems. It's not part of the Datum CTL control plane. This is somewhere between an inventory management system and a Kubernetes controller. But a Talos Omni image boots in our data centers, learns where it is by being passed a tag at boot time, and then joins our cluster organizer, announcing where it is. It's assigned to a Datum regional Kubernetes cluster. And from that point on, all of our kit is deployed using Flux. Um, Flux is installed in the cluster, and Flux checks in with our Git repositories for semver conventionally version releases, tagged, cut, shipped, pulls them down. And the Flux customizations layers, we're using those to organize what runs where sensibly. We have the pretty, we've implemented well, I'm an old FreeBSD guy, so we're calling them channels, release, stable, and edge for the old heads out there. And
Hmm.
we can just assign, we can tell clusters whether they're part of which channel they're part of, and they run that channel's datum stack. I don't have diagrams or slides and all for any of this
Yeah,
because
sure.
we've been too busy. Well, trying to let you
Yeah,
guys use it. But that
right.
next time you see us, I think we'll have some pretty pictures. I'm one of the few people who's not a STEM educated guy. Pictures are hard for me, but I'll make them. I love you people, and I need to do it. Um, I Josh Reese has left, but
Yeah, yeah,
Josh
Josh.
was critical of teaching me about this part. I didn't know since I last managed a bunch of Kubernetes clusters, which was a long time ago. It was just a thing I really try to avoid doing, managing the cluster yourself, right? You want to ship stuff to it, and uh, you can now just you can pass Talos Linux a YAML file at boot time that makes changes to the kernel control CTLs. Um, Wonders never cease. So we haven't even needed to use Bird to announce PGP. We're using Cilium as a daemon set. So I yeet a node create call at my provider, and a couple minutes later, Talos has booted. It has joined my cluster organizing layer. It's the Sidero's kit. It's called Omni. I'll just call it that. Been told which datum cluster it should join. Had Cilium installed on that cluster by the control plane, and then joined the Datum Global Network. A few minutes later, it's not about to create a new cluster completely from scratch. We've stopwatched that at 17 minutes. Pretty good. There's some missing pieces, and maybe I won't spend too much time talking about the missing pieces now.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you next time what we
Okay, yeah,
fixed, what
yeah,
we
that'd be
plugged.
great. Yeah, and the
Yeah,
abstractions that we have built on top of that, right? With the custom resource operators, we built the galactic operators on top of the clusters. We have done
yeah.
the proxies on our gateway
Yeah,
proxy.
unfortunately, we don't get all the benefits of a lot of the work we've done on the datum use of the Kubernetes API and the conceptual space. Lets us leave parts that we're not going to use on the floor. And that's not true for the edge. We are actually shipping a full Kubernetes to each node. But this is 2020. I almost said five. We, we don't need that much hardware to run it. So we were worried that we should be using something like K3s to keep it lightweight. But I think we're at 30 cores per regional cluster right now. And
Cool.
it's plenty of headroom to grow for the next, well, I'll let this dev figure out how long it is. But we were surprised at how little compute and RAM full on Kates actually takes these days. Certainly I was. So
Yeah,
yeah, we didn't even need to do anything custom to make it lightweight. We're thrilled. Um,
yeah.
and so, yeah, trip report. Happy to take questions, and I'll try to make a pictures for y'all next time.
Yeah, as I think the other things are like all the proxies and the gateways that we can introduce, into these Kubernetes clusters quite easily, right? The gateways that Seo was referring to or other proxies, and I have Damien and Domenico from Atomis out here. So, any kind of questions, comments on that, Damien and Domenico, and ideas and
Yeah, so it sounds very great. So this is Damien from Artemis, and so my question is, Evan. So for example, if I have what we have built runs in Kubernetes, and we want to take advantage of Datum Network, we are super excited about it. What is for us the least like the least path resistance to deploy our service on those regional edge? clusters.
It sounds like that's what we're going to be finding out with you in our lab. We have built laboratory clusters on our edge channel, and we are currently discussing this
Yes.
morning what is
Yes.
the what does it look like to take other people's software and run. Currently, I literally have a customization.yaml file in the edge channel, which specifies that it includes the datum stable chain, followed by a list of other customizations, and that's an open-ended hook. So
So yeah, I think
yeah,
I think you if you have a Helm chart, or Damien, if
yeah.
you have one of those, that would be perhaps the least resistant path
Yes, a
towards
Helm
it.
chart is the way to start. And
Or if
my brain went to non-technical ways
okay.
of interacting with customers. But yeah, we wouldn't want to render this in Flux until after we know what we
Yeah.
want to install.
Yeah, right.
But
And
yeah,
we could do operators, and we could do Helm through the Helm chart, and that Scott has
Yeah.
some, yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking about
We,
how to get you a kubectl config that works.
uh, yes, we are open to either use what you provide or something that is very close to where you are with the same provider.
Yes.
Basically, like a rack by rack, and then use what you have now because we are excited about BGP routing, the gateway, and stuff like that. That allows us to ship this basically in multiple edge locations.
Right.
So yeah, super happy to work with you on that
Yeah.
and understand what is the best way and the model to do it. Both
Yes.
Domenico and I are available.
Yeah, sure. We'll set up some time for us to do that, as well as figuring out ways to start testing it out even in kind clusters before ahead of time, so that we can have our dev environments, uh, you know, exercise the pieces, right? So great, we'll do that. Thank
Yeah.
you,
The,
Evan and Damien. Yeah,
ensuring that the bits that aren't in kubectl are in debt. Yeah, last word for me.
yeah,
I'm personally interested in ensuring that anything I don't need to do in kubectl, I do in datum ctl. Right.
right.
So we want you to be able to deploy your Helm chart to your own using something that comes out of the datum control plane. So this is the
Got it.
convergence work we're doing right now, and sounds like I need a lab with you, Damien. Enough words out
Yeah.
of me. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
Absolutely looking
Or
forward
any
to
more questions?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Any other questions, comments? I know we have
I,
some.
so
Yeah. Go ahead.
Ryan McDonald had a great question that I typed an
Hmm.
answer to, but I thought I would just speak to it
Yeah.
live. Essentially, the existential question, which is like to Kubernetes or not to Kubernetes, and I think we're trying to balance, where is it helpful, where is it not helpful, because obviously it is a lot of complexity. And so it's certainly not a sledgehammer for us in the sense that we are going to try and smash every problem with it. Um, I would I would describe it more as a scalpel, and like, it's surgical and helpful, and we're going to use it where it makes sense. It just so
Hmm.
happens that a lot of the ecosystem, a lot of industry, a lot of tooling, has just moved towards Kates in so many ways over the last few years that there is a lot to take advantage of. I've run Kubernetes and Kubernetes teams for a while now, so I feel like I shouldn't say this out loud, but I mean,
Hmm.
I'm an old school sysadmin. Remember well the days of just clustering computers together, with my bare hands, and like our ancestors did. So it was it's my own existential question all the time, but I think that Kubernetes is so well understood at this point that people really understand how to use it as a distributed system, which means that it's not. It doesn't have to be monolithic. Some distributed systems, like, they have a very specific, way of having coordination and nodes talk to each other, and it's not that kind of distributed system. It's like a really open and in many cases REST based distributed system where there's a lot of flexibility in how you wire things together. And so it really does afford us the ability to say, hey, this problem doesn't really fit Kubernetes in the right way, or we need to expose functionality to our users that if we enforce a consumption model that forces them to run Kubernetes locally, like it's not gonna work. So that's just part of like designing ergonomic interfaces and our entire philosophy, which is, hey, we're going to lean into the interfaces that make sense for where people are. And so,
Right.
if you need to plug in a thing into infrastructure in a modern service provider, it's like probably going to be Kubernetes. If you're doing something at the edge or you're having to, manipulate packets or route stuff, like do everything at like a very low level in the data plane, like it's probably going to be, something in the kernel or eBPF or something like that, where, maybe you have like sort of some Kubernetes coordination, but like the real meat of the problem is being solved in something that really doesn't need Kubernetes at all. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
But trust me, it's always a challenge to figure out what is the right way to make something easy to use. And
Right level of layer to plug into, right? Or
exactly.
abstraction. Yeah. Cool. Thank
All
you.
right, we have two
No,
minutes
we
left.
do know the right
Two
way. It's
minutes.
control plane,
Minutes.
data plane.
Minutes. And
Two.
before we go, I just want to let you guys know we're gonna go back and we're gonna celebrate, as you can see the balloons. We're gonna celebrate going back to our old format because I don't think the webinar. It was a good experiment, but I think the normal Zoom is probably more cohesive to what we want to do.
Yeah,
Right.
this
And
feels a
then
little
yeah.
92nd Street Y for those who get the reference.
And then yeah, on the I think the recording will be posted, and then yeah, and I think if we keep posting like any findings or any questions on Discord, that'd be awesome, right? Join our community channel, and Evan will put some pictures there.
I owe you one.
He has he can put pictures of his dogs as well.
Oh, you'll take those. Good.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, we're at time. It was so cool to have everyone here today, and we will see you next month.
Yep.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
joining.
everyone.
All
Thanks.
right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Bye.